Hey, this is Hoop Jones from Dagon, and I'm going to show you guys how to play Into the North off of our album Terraphobic. When I joined the band, I didn't play on Terraphobic, so I've had to figure all of this out, and so I mean it may be slightly different from what Chris or Brian plays, really Brian, because I play Brian's parts on the stuff from that album. So, take it with a grain of salt, but it's what I play live and what works. The tuning that Dagon uses, the guitar players tune half step, and then we drop the D so that it goes D flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B flat, and E flat. Randy tunes to something different. He's not dropping stuff. I think he's in just the straight flat tuning. But he also plays a 6-string bass, so anyway. So it's got a handful of riffs, and I'll just kind of go through them one by one and try to break them down. It starts out with 2 power chords on with the root on the A string. It'll be on the 5 and the 3, so, and then we slide into the first riff, which is you can think of it 2 ways. I guess probably the technical, or the best way, like if you were to tab it out, would be to look at it as a lead-in on 5 and 7 on the higher D string, and you just gallop it, so that's 2/16 and an 1/8. I know there's like an 8th note before that, but anyway, it's a gallop, not triplets. So you do that on the 5 and the 7. So the way that the riff loops, you can think of it as starting on 8 with a lead-in, or think of the riff the first time it plays, it coming in like a measure or 2 before where it loops. But if you've got your 5, 7, then you hang on the 8, and then you're gonna go 5, 7, 8 on the G string. So 5, 7, 8, and come up to the 7 on the D string. So we've got so the hammer-on stuff is it's weird to break it out of time, but I'm just hitting an open on the D and going 5 or 7, 8, 10, 8, 7, just hammering on and pulling off. You could do it legato. I pick like the end points of it, like, so I pick on the 7, and then when I get to the 10, I pick on that to give it, strength ascending and then descending. The same rule for picking and legato would apply for the next one, which would be I'm again hitting an open D, and then going to the G and going 8, 7, 5. And so, the 1 on the G string goes twice as long as the 1 on the D. But then you just come back up and you're ready to loop it again. So it all together, the intro chords and then the first riff would be I can't remember how many times it goes. It's either 3 or 4. But the last time that you do that riff, it'll be a... You put that little tail on there, which is just pulling off on the D 8, 7, and then going up to the 8 on the A. And then we go into the verse riff, which is pretty straightforward, but it does get pretty fast because I tend to downpick it. You don't have to, but you'll always be. We'll be on the 5, 3, and the 1, and you'll always be playing the octaves up. Since we're in drop D, it'll be octaves. So you start on the higher D on the 5. You got to bar it across, and the whole verse riff follows that pattern. So it's always, you know, bouncing up to the low string. But you just follow, basically you're following the dots. I mean, and here you go 5, 7, 8, and then hit on the G. But and each one of those, you know, it goes for 4 counts. So it's 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So like that, and then you'll just do the same thing. You'll move it up and follow that same sort of picking pattern, just making sure it's in the scale, which is basically just going to be following the dots. So. So when you go to, I guess what I said about the octaves is wrong, because when you go up to the 3rd fret, it'll be 3 and then 5, as if you were hitting octaves if it were in standard tuning. But so it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So that's on the G string, going 3, 2, and then hammering on 3, 5. And that can get kind of tricky because you're going really fast, you're bouncing between the strings, and then you've got to make sure you hit all of those. But that's the verse. So, the last time you do the verse, you go. When I loop the verse, I'm doing. I play with my pinky and then reset back to my 1st finger. But in the chorus riff, or pre-chorus, whatever, the next riff, you know you're gonna need to use your other fingers to do stuff, so I go, and it's a little bit awkward because you have to switch positions, but you want to end up on your 1st finger on the 5th fret. So those you're just doing, it sounds like quadruplets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So I mean that we're back on the 5, 7, and 8. It's like it's the same tail that would transition between the intro riff and the verse. The 8, 7, 8. So that's going between each one of those notes, we're doing that little pull-off thing. But that's the pre-chorus, so. So then the next part is the harmony. Eight, 5, 7, 5, 7, 8. So I mean, it's staying within that scale if you know the scale form. But those notes. I don't know how to explain that any slower right now, because it's got a lot of bouncing around to do, I guess. But I guess you can play the video back. Hopefully, playing that slower helps. Let me zoom in on that actually. So we've got. Straighten this out here, so. This right here is the 5th fret, 7th, and 8th. So hopefully that helps. But that's more or less the song. Then we've got the pre-solo riff, which is just going. And it's just 3, 5, 1, and then we change the rhythm to follow the drums. Chris is doing I don't know, something down there. I don't know what it is. But as far as my part is concerned, it's just 3, 5, 1. You do it the first time just straight, and then the second time chunked. And then we get into the slam part, which follows the chunking rhythm. And you're just doing squeals on 6 and 6. So you want to be hitting the higher harmonic, because you've got different harmonics down here, like those two lower ones, like that one, and then you want to hit the higher one, the one nearer your bridge, and you know, so it's on 6 on the A, 6 on the low D, and you do that 3 times, and then it goes into the solo. I'll make a separate video for the solo, and you know, I don't know the backing riff. It's probably just a couple power chords. It's not too complex. But then you come out of the solo into the do that 3 times, go into verse, chorus, all that stuff. So those are the riffs. That's Into the North. Hope that works. And if not, I can try to help you out. So later.